Good day, everyone. Lee Hayward here, creator of the Muscle After 40 Blueprint program and Lee Hayward's Total Fitness Bodybuilding. Welcome to our video chat for Friday, April the 12th. And the way these chats work is I'm going to be hanging out here for the next hour, answering questions and topics of discussion that you have related to health and wellness, fitness and nutrition. So if there's any specific questions that you would like to discuss, I'm getting tongue-tied, relating to building muscle, losing fat, improving your nutrition, improving your workouts, anything along those lines, health, fitness, nutrition, feel free to type those questions and topics of discussion into our chat window, and I'll do the best I can to help you out over the course of our video chat today. And before we get going, I just want to make sure that this is coming through loud and clear and that you can hear me and that you can see me and all that good stuff. And I think it is. Let's see. We have Matthew's joining in saying it is loud and clear. Appreciate that, Matthew. Baby Boomer Fitness saying it is loud and clear. Appreciate that as well. Good stuff. Good stuff. Excellent. Loud and clear. Loud and clear. Excellent. All right. I do appreciate that. So we are streaming from the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel, the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group, as well as my own personal profile page over on Facebook as well. So wherever you happen to be watching this live stream, you'll be able to participate in the comment section there. Whether it's on YouTube, it's the live stream video chat window there. If it's on Facebook, it's going to be in the comment section below the video. But you'll be able to participate and ask your questions and post your topics of discussion there and join in on our conversation today. And this is something that I do every Friday, or most Fridays. I mean, of course, every now and then I got to, if I'm busy or I'm traveling or something like that, I might not do a live video chat. But more often than not, more Fridays out of the year than most, I'm going to be here at 5 p.m. Eastern time doing a live stream Q&A to help you with your health, fitness, and wellness goals. So let's jump right into this. Good stuff. All right. So let's see. We have Lee Dunnigan joining in. Welcome, Lee. Glad to have you here. Good stuff. And AJ saying, don't forget to keep your eye on the chat to avoid any audio issues. Yeah, last week we had some audio issues. I don't know what happened. Either my mic got disconnected or something along those lines. But yeah, we had a bit of a crap show there last week where the audio went. But anyway, we're gonna keep things moving forward today, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we don't have any audio issues. So far, so good. So as you're tuning in right now, guys, let me know where you're tuning in from and what part of the world it is. Where are you joining us from? I'd like to know, because I know we do have an international audience of people who join into these video chats every week. So it's just nice to see who's joining in from different parts of the world. So for myself, I'm in Newfoundland, Canada. And it is currently 6:37 p.m. Newfoundland time as I'm doing this right now. So I'm just curious, where are you located and where are you tuning in from? Just want to kind of get that idea. We have Zulio from Greece at midnight, burning the midnight oil. Welcome. Glad to have you joining in. Tremonton, I guess that's how you pronounce it. I'm not familiar with that. From Utah. We have from Racine, what's WI? I'm not, I'm brain farting here. Anyway, welcome, Facebook user from Racine. I guess that's how you pronounce it, WI. Sweden. We have Andy over in the UK at 10 p.m. We've got Brownsville, Texas. We've got, I believe that's Pennsylvania, in the US. Awesome. Okay. All right. So question there from Jose saying, how you feeling? Did you have a live stream last week? I couldn't find the video with the link provided. Anyway, question, did you get better bicep development, barbell curls, or easy curl? First off, I'll just answer that real quick. For those of you who've been following along, regulars to our video chats, a few weeks ago, I came down with a dose of COVID, and that really took the wind out of my sails. and I'm still not over it. I mean, I've gotten some medication from my doctor. I've got some asthma inhalers that I'm using to help break up the chest congestion, but it's still there. And I'm feeling better, and it is improving day by day. But man, like this lingers. It really has. This is the first time I've ever gotten sick with COVID. And I mean, I feel for people who've gone through it. Like, I've made it this far, right, through the whole heyday of the pandemic without getting it, but just got it 3 weeks ago. But it hit me like a ton of bricks. And for the first week, I was absolutely useless, didn't want to do anything. Gradually started to get better in terms of energy and motivation, but this lingering chest congestion and chest hack. I mean, the asthma inhalers that I'm using is helping to break it up, but my strength and energy are still not there. I actually was at the gym today, did a workout, and I would say I'm about 80% of what I was before I got sick. So I'm still going through the motions. I'm still keeping myself active. I mean, trying my best in that regards, but it's far from back to normal. Again, I estimate my strength to be about 8 out of 10 of what it was prior to getting sick. So hopefully I'll be getting back to normal sooner than later. It is getting better day by day, but it just lingers. It really is. I mean, this is no joke for sure. All right, let's see. Let's jump right into some questions here now. So again, that was Jose had a question there about bicep development with straight barbell curls or easy bar curls. And you know what? You can make an argument for either one, and there's pros and cons to both. Back in the day, I did post some videos and some articles talking about the benefits of a straight barbell curl versus an easy curl barbell curl. But you got to look at it from the bigger picture perspective. With a straight bar, you will get more muscle activation. So I don't know if you can see this. Like when you twist your biceps, like just that rotation, you can see that my bicep is flaring, right? Just by rotating. I'm not moving my arm, I'm just twisting. So when you twist your arms into that supinated position, right? You know, you get that contraction in the bicep. That's what I'm trying to get at there, right? I don't know if say it there. So when you have your arm in supinated, palms up, what happens is you already pre-contract your biceps because they're fully supinated, and that'll help you to get a maximum contraction in the bicep muscle. The only downside to that is it's sometimes hard on the wrists, having your hands totally rotated. Some people don't have the mobility in their wrists and elbows to do that properly. So it can be hard on the wrists, hard on the elbows. And if it causes you discomfort or it reduces the amount of weight you can lift, then you can argue that a straight barbell curl is probably not going to be as beneficial for stimulating maximum muscle growth as an easy curl, barbell curl. So my advice is use what feels the best for you. Try both and see which one gives you the best pump, which one feels the best on your joints, tendons, and ligaments, and which one do you prefer, and use that. And that's what I do personally. Like for me, sometimes I will do straight barbell curls, but most of the time, I would say 80% of the time, I'm using an easy curl bar because it feels more comfortable. It's easier on my wrists, easier on my elbows, and I feel that I'm able to lift maximum weight with minimum joint pain and strain. And as you get older, you know, especially for guys in their 40s, 50s, and beyond, minimizing joint pain and strain is of utmost importance. Even if it's a little less anabolic from a muscle stimulation point of view, if it's more if it helps to promote longevity and minimize the risk of injury, that's worth it in the long run. Because the only thing that is going to set your progress back is getting an injury. Like that, for the most part. I mean, obviously, you know, getting sick or whatever, that's going to set your progress back too. But from things that you can control, things that you do, the only thing that's going to really set you back is getting an injury. Because I've shared this before, but I'm just going to share it again for the benefit of anybody who's new and probably haven't heard this before. If you skip a workout, is that really going to set you back? In the greater scheme, no, it's not, because you can always go back to the gym the next day, right? So even if I'm busy today, I'm tired, I'm lazy, I didn't feel like going to the gym, or I couldn't go to the gym because I was whatever, chores, responsibilities, working overtime, family crap, whatever came up, you can still go to the gym the next day. So a skipped workout is not really going to hinder your progress in the long term. If you go in there and you do an easy workout, is that going to hinder your progress? Like you go in there and you're like, oh, I didn't go to failure. I didn't push myself. I didn't train heavy. I just did an easy workout. Is that going to set you back? No, because you can go back the next day and train harder and still push yourself. And as long as you're showing up consistently, you can still make progress. So an easy workout is not going to set you back. But if you go in there and you do something that's either you push yourself too hard, lift too heavy, lift beyond your means, or you do exercises that cause pain and discomfort or risk of injury, and you pull something, tear something, snap something, that's going to set you back because you're not just going to bounce back from that the next day. So the only thing that can set you back with your workout progress is an injury. So whatever you can do to minimize that risk of injury is of utmost importance. That's like top of the priority list. I would rather prioritize minimizing injury than maximizing muscle growth, because whatever maximum muscle growth you get from pushing yourself to your limits and beyond, if you overdo it and get injured, the setback you experience after that is going to cancel out those gains very quickly. Versus if you went in there and you didn't go balls to the wall, you only gave it, 80%, right? You were holding back, or you weren't pushing it to the limits, but you were consistent day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out. That's going to overcompensate and lead to better long-term gains than going in there and going hardcore, high intensity, pushing to failure and beyond, and then risking an injury, right? So long-term consistency trumps short-term intensity. And when it comes to your exercise selection, choose the exercises that are that feel the best for you and that are not going to aggravate any potential injuries, especially when it comes to joint pain and injuries. So again, getting back to Jose's question there, personally, I go with the easy curl bar. That's because I feel it's more comfortable and minimizes the risk of injury. But again, if you can do the straight bar curl with no pain or discomfort and it gives you a good bicep contraction, then by all means use that as well. So, all right, let's see what else we got there. Andy's joining in. Do you have any secrets or tips on getting your lateral delts growing? The secrets, all right? The long lost secrets. I always get a kick out of that. Like back in the day, and even today, you hear the secrets as if it's not secrets. It's just the shit that works, right? Versus all the hype and crap that doesn't. But anyway, getting back to your question there, how are we going to maximize muscle growth in the lateral delts? One of the key things you want to focus on with any type of training, especially deltoid training, is quality movement and time under tension and actually feeling the muscles working versus just moving weight from point A to point B. So when you're doing side lateral raises and front raises and rear delt raises and any isolation work for your shoulders, they're not power exercises. So going in there and grabbing heavy weights and just powering up weights with fast, explosive movements, very often cheating or swinging or anything like that, that's not going to maximize muscle growth to the same degree as using a more moderate and conservative weight and really feeling that muscle work. So you have to get comfortable realizing that you're not going to make the same degree of progressive overload with shoulder exercises like lateral raises. It's not a power move. It's not like adding weight to a deadlift or adding weight to a squat or a leg press or a bench press or a row or some big heavy compound power exercise. It's a small movement. Like if you're doing 20-pound dumbbell lateral raises, which is a significant weight for most people, I'm not talking about like strongman competitors and powerlifters and IFBB pros, but I'm talking about like your average Joe that you see in the gym. If they can do side lateral raises with good strict form, no swinging, no cheating, keeping the muscles under tension and control of the weight with 20-pound dumbbells, I mean, that's respectable. That's what I use. I consider that pretty respectable. 20s, 25s at a max. If I go using 30s or beyond, my form starts to break down, or I can't get enough reps to make it worthwhile. So for me, I keep the weights conservative and just really focus on squeezing that muscle, time under tension. And if you want to make it harder, you want to have some progressive overload there, slow down the tempo. Slow down the tempo and really maximize that peak contraction and feel those muscles working. I mean, if you want to increase the volume of repetitions, increase the volume of sets, that's fine as well. But focus on feeling the muscles work, not just throwing weights up for the sake of throwing weights up, right? And that's one of the key things right there. So I would recommend that for all your isolation work for shoulders. And I also like using machines for shoulder isolation. And these days, depending on the gym that you train at, of course, you probably have some good machines. Like we have a couple really good shoulder machines. Like we have a side lateral raise machine, which is kind of, it has the pads that you rest your, I'll move your question there so I can just demonstrate. It has the pads that you literally rest your forearms on and lift. I find that that's an excellent one, the side lateral raise machine, because it allows you to push the weights fairly heavy for an isolation exercise, but do so with strict and controlled form. So I really like that one for side lateral raises. We also have another, it's a side lateral raise machine from Iron Axe. It's a fairly new machine. That's another one that I really like for side lats. Another one that I do as well is work for the rear delts. So like the reverse pec deck fly, that's really good for isolating the rear head of the deltoids. And that's what I would prioritize, side delts and rear delts. Give those top priority. You can still include some front delt work, but the front delts for most people are going to get a lot of direct stimulation from your pressing, whether that's shoulder presses, chest presses, push-ups, even your tricep work. Your front delts are going to get a lot of stimulation from that. But the side delts and the rear delts, that's what's going to make you have that nice round shoulders. That's what's really going to cap the shoulders and to also balance them out. Because if you have overdeveloped front delts in comparison to the rear delts, that's going to lead to muscle imbalances, which could then lead to potential injuries later on down the road. Shoulder imbalances, which could cause rotator cuff issues and things like that. So really prioritize side delts and rear delts and strict form, focusing on time under tension and feeling the muscles work rather than simply trying to move weight. That's some of the best strategies I can offer for you there. I mean, this is something I could probably, go into more detail, like do some updated workouts for different body parts. Like, that's something I'll probably be doing in the future on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. What else we got there? Let's move on here. Second, guys. Bunch of people chiming in, sharing where everyone's from. So we have someone from Wisconsin joining in. Welcome. We have Todd from Bradford, home of the Zippo lighter. Eddie's joining in from over in Ireland. Welcome. We have Jesse's joining in. Welcome. Glad to have you joining us. Let's see what else we got. JE, hope you get better soon, Lee. What's the difference between doing hammer curls in front of your body versus bringing it towards your chest? I think I know what you're referring to there. Hammer curls is basically just doing curls with your thumbs up. So, this is a hammer curl, right? If you have your hands supinated, that's usually referred to as just a regular bicep curl. But hammer curls, thumbs up, right? And it works the biceps from a different angle, works more of the brachialis, works more of the forearms. And if you switch them where you curl to the sides of your body, like a regular dumbbell curl, or you curl, some people kind of do them, again, move your question there, like you're crossing your body in a weird sort of way. I've heard that referred to as a pinwheel curl. Some people call it that, but it's just basically a different variation of a hammer curl. It's still working the same muscles, but it's just going to place different emphasis, and you'll probably actually get more forearm stimulation. At least that's what I feel when I do the cross body hammer curl. I find that it just engages the forearms to a greater degree. So again, it's just a different exercise variation. It's not that it's right, wrong, good, or bad. It's just another variation. And this applies with all exercises. Like, you can look at, well, dumbbell bench versus barbell bench. What's better, right? Squats, back squats versus front squats. What's better? Sumo deadlifts versus conventional deadlifts. What's better? What's different or whatever? Like it's just a different exercise. And that's the beauty of weight training and bodybuilding is we have so many different exercises available. So if you find that one movement doesn't feel comfortable, then you can try another. Or if you find that you stagnate and plateau with a certain exercise, then you can try another variation of that exercise and probably start some unique muscle stimulation and start that whole growth process all over again. So it's not that it's right, wrong, good or bad. Like, it's just another variation. Right. So, I mean, you can incorporate different types of curls and reap the benefits of both. Right. It's almost like someone saying, well, what's better with my nutrition? Hey, should I eat chicken or should I eat steak? There's benefits to both. They're both great quality sources of protein. They're different, but they're both good. Right. It's not like you have to eat just one or the other. You can enjoy both. Same thing when it comes to your different curl variations. Right. It's just a different variation and you can enjoy both of them. All right, who else we got? Space Battleship Alex says, Lee, just finished a fairly challenging few-week lifting cycle that I felt was productive, but over the next few weeks, I have a busy schedule. Would dialing back the volume and intensity be detrimental to my progress? I don't know. You're going to have to find out and see. But the fact that you had a productive training cycle, I'm assuming you were consistent and pushing yourself and made some new gains. As long as you are consistent and not like just, okay, over the next few weeks, you're saying that you've got a busy schedule. Dialing back, it depends on what we consider dialing back. As long as you're still going to the gym and you're still training and you're still making progress, you're not going to lose your gains, right? If you said, okay, I'm busy and I'm not going to go to the gym for the next few weeks. Yeah. If you don't use it, you lose it. But if you can just get to the gym 3 days a week, I mean, even if it's not max effort intensity, but it's just 3 consistent workouts a week, you'll still be able to maintain or even slow gain on what you've just accomplished. All right. So, I mean, it doesn't always have to be balls to the wall training to be productive. Right? Good enough and good enough consistently. That's the secret to long-term sustainability. This is a question I kind of just touched on. Sumo style or conventional style deadlift, which is better on the lower back? Most people would say the sumo because you tend not to have to bend over as far when you're doing a sumo style deadlift versus a conventional deadlift. But again, that's going to depend on the individual. It's going to depend on your body type, your mobility, your flexibility, and whatever issues you probably have with your lower back. Some people are stronger with a conventional deadlift. Some people are stronger with a sumo. Me personally, I find I am stronger with a conventional deadlift. I've tried both. I've tried maxing out with both, and I can pull heavier and feel more solid with a conventional. And for those of you who are wondering what the hell is a conventional versus sumo, sumo is a wide stance deadlift where your hands are between your knees, your feet are out wide, almost like visualize a sumo wrestler. They're got their legs out wide and they're squat down ready for a sumo match, hence the name sumo deadlift. You're in that wide legs wide stance. Conventional is your feet are basically shoulder width apart and your hands are on the outside of your knees. Sumo is wide stance. Your hands are on the inside of your knees. So that's the difference. You can Google search it if you want to verify it for yourself. But some people will find that the sumo is easier on the lower back because you can kind of squat down and use more leg drive and keep your upper body a bit more upright, which may feel better depending on your individual situation and mobility. But not always. Some people feel better with conventional style. So again, it's one of those things. Try both. And if you really want a deadlift that is easier on the lower back, I wouldn't bother with sumo or conventional. I would use a trap bar deadlift or a hex bar deadlift. Either one. Because when you use the trap bar / hex bar, you're standing inside the bar, and the weight is centered with your torso. When you're doing conventional or sumo, the weight is in front of your body and you have to pull back. So you're engaging your back because instead of just lifting straight up like you do with a trap bar or a hex bar, you actually have to pull back. So if you want a deadlift that is easier on the lower back, I would go with a trap bar / hex bar. That's the one that I very often, like when I'm starting new coaching students in the gym, teaching them how to deadlift, we'll start with the trap bar deadlift first, get them to master that. Once they're comfortable with that, then we'll work into conventional deadlifts and sumo deadlifts and whatever other deadlift variations. But I usually always start with the trap bar first. It tends to be easier to learn and master. And another benefit as well is you're not going to be dragging the barbell up over your shins, which sucks for those of you, if you do on heavy deadlifts and you're dragging especially when the grip, the gnarling on the bar scrapes up your shins. That's one of the nice things about the trap bar is no skin on the bar from dragging it up over your shins. All right, Lee is joining in, regular to our video chats. He says, I'm in a grip competition on Sunday. There's 4 events, lifting different objects. I've included some of your old grip and forearm videos into my training, which have really helped. So thank you. Awesome. I'm looking forward to hearing about how that goes for you. And I used to be really into grip training back in the day, back in the early 2000s. I went through a phase where I kind of went obsessed with grip work. And I was actually going through some old video footage that I found, stuff that I've never posted before, doing different grip strength things. One, tearing a deck of playing cards in half, bending nails, like, you know, anyone who's involved with grip knows that, but bending. So I got an old video of myself tearing cards, and I got another video of myself bending a nail. And I'm going to put together like a little compilation of some old school video footage and post it up there because it's cool to see, right? I mean, obviously my approach and my training methods and everything else have changed over the years, but it's nice to reminisce of, you know, where it kind of started back in the old days, back when I was younger and in my prime and focusing more on, you know, the strength and not so much the health and wellness side of things, but just getting as big and strong at all at whatever costs type of things, that type of approach, right? I mean, obviously I suffered some injuries from doing that, but it was a lot of fun when I look back on it. Like, you know, it was, I don't regret it. I mean, it was a fun phase of my training, but obviously as I've gotten older, I can't push myself to the same degree. The joints, tendons, and ligaments just don't hold up to that kind of punishment anymore. But I'm going to share some of those old video footages and kind of like make some old compilation videos and post it up on the channel. But again, I'm looking forward to hearing how you do in your grip competition. And just curious, what are the events? Post it in the comments there. I'd like to see what it is that you're actually doing. All right, let's see. We have Rod joining in. What's up? Hope all is well. Welcome, Rod. Glad to have you joining in. Mike, hello, Mike. Who else? We're getting more grip questions from Zulio. I'm sure that's how you pronounce it. I'm probably butchering your name, but I'm calling you Zulio. What's your opinion on heavy grips hand grippers? I love them. I don't know if I have any here handy to demonstrate. I used to keep some in my office, but I think I got them down in the home gym there now. But I've been a big advocate of heavy grips hand grippers for years. And that was something that really helped lay the foundation for grip training. And grip work is one of the most neglected aspects of health and fitness, because it's even been shown, like in studies, when they study like markers for longevity, grip strength is up there. Like weight, your heart health, your VO2 max, and your grip strength. Like that is one of the markers for longevity. And it's been shown that people who have a stronger grip tend to live a longer life than those who don't. Now, I don't know if it's correlation or causation. You know, there's kind of a bit of, because obviously if you have a stronger grip, you're probably stronger all over, and you probably have more muscle mass, which in turn is going to help to improve your mobility as you age. But strong grip is one of the markers for longevity. And it's one of the most neglected things in training, because very few people do any direct grip work anymore, right? Other than grabbing the barbells and dumbbells and machine handles, like other than holding on to weights, that is the extent of most people's grip work. But there's so much that you can actually do to strengthen the grip and all the different aspects of grip training. Pinch grip and different elements of working the forearms and bending and twisting and gripper work and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot to it. But heavy grip hand grippers certainly helps to lay the foundation. And not only will it help to strengthen your grip, but it'll help to thicken up your forearms as well. Because I know once I got serious into grip training, that really helped to fill out my forearms. And I remember when I started using heavy grips for the first time, within 3 months, I worked up from closing the 200-pound heavy grips hand gripper to the 300-pound heavy grips hand gripper, which was the heaviest that they had at the time. And in the process of going from the 200 to the 300, I also added a full inch to my forearms, measuring the circumference of the forearms. So that was pretty cool. So, I mean, it certainly helped to improve the size and the strength. We have Steven joining in. Welcome, Steve. Glad to have you. We have Roberts joining in. Says, when using dumbbells for chest, are there other parts of the body that I would be using? Yes. You will be using multiple muscle groups. And in fact, this is something that I really emphasize when I'm coaching people in the gym. There is no such thing. There's truly no such thing as an isolation exercise, because every exercise you do, you're going to be bringing in multiple muscle groups to perform that exercise. And like in the case of a chest press, I mean, okay, yeah, you want to focus on the dumbbell chest press or dumbbell bench press, whatever you want to call it. But you're going to be bringing in so many other muscle groups. I mean, first off, just to get the dumbbells up, you have to deadlift them off the floor, right? You have to get back onto the bench with the dumbbells. So, I mean, that's going to engage your back, it's going to engage your legs, it's going to engage your core. Once you actually get positioned on the bench, in order to properly arch and set up your upper body, now you're engaging your traps and your lats and retracting your shoulder blades to create that solid base on the bench. As you're pressing, you're engaging your shoulders and your triceps, and then of course your grip and all the stabilizer muscles. So there's multiple muscles come into play for every exercise. And when you're using free weights, you're bringing in more of those smaller stabilizer muscles to balance and support the weights, especially with dumbbells. So like, for example, like the different categories of exercise, we could do a chest press machine on a machine and all you have to do is literally press against the resistance of the machine. It's all balanced and supported by the machine itself. The next level would be a barbell bench press. Now you have to balance and stabilize a free weight barbell. The next level up is dumbbell bench press, because now you have to balance and stabilize 2 barbells. And not only that, you've got to, unless you have a spotter who's going to hand you those dumbbells, you got to actually get them onto your chest in position. Whereas if you're doing a barbell bench press, most gyms these days have bench presses with uprights. So it's easier to on-rack and re-rack the barbell. Back in the old days, there was no uprights. Guys literally flung the barbell up onto their chest the same as people do with dumbbells today, right? It was just a flat bench with no uprights, and guys literally had to somehow deadlift and clean that barbell up to their chest and then lie down on the bench to press the weights, right? This is back in the old school days, before we had bench presses with the uprights. So, I mean, there's so many more muscles involved in that sense, but even with, a proper bench press like we have today, you're still engaged in a lot of muscle. It's not just the chest. Even though that's what you're focusing on, you're bringing in so many other muscles as supporting and stabilizer and assisting muscle groups. And that applies for virtually every exercise. Like look at squats. Okay, guys say squats are great for building big legs, but you're working so much more than just your legs. You're working your back, you're working your core, you're working your shoulders. Like you're working virtually every muscle in your body to some degree to balance and stabilize and support that weight. All right, what else? We got another question here. What are your thoughts on creatine? I've found really loading and taking at least 2 scoops a day has helped me build mass. Creatine is probably the most researched supplement on the market. It's been around for, I first started using it and first heard about it in 1995, and it's probably been around for a few years before then, but it really started to become mainstream in the mid 90s. And now it's like taking a multivitamin, right? I mean, it's everywhere, right? You go to the grocery store, they're bound to have creatine on the shelves. You know, go to any supplement store, they're going to have creatine. You go to Walmart, there's creatine. Like everywhere, there's creatine, right? It's like a multivitamin these days. It's such a so bottom line, it's a proven supplement. It works. By all means, take it. One thing that I do want to address there, the loading phase. You mentioned really loading. You don't need to load with creatine. Like, obviously, that will get it in your system faster, but that's where a lot of people have some bloating and digestive issues or stomach irritation. Because if you've never taken a supplement before, right? You like the average person, I've never taken creatine before, and now you're going to start loading it, which the loading phase is usually like 5 grams 5 times a day for a week. Like, that's a shit ton of creatine to put in your system, and you don't know how your body's going to respond to it. Like, it might cause cramps or bloating or, you know, give you the runs or who knows what. But if you take small dose, like maintenance dose, like literally 5 grams a day, once a day, that'll just let it build up in your system slowly and at a more manageable rate. It's still going to build up in your system, and you're still going to reap the benefits. It's just going to take a little longer to reach full saturation of creatine in your system. But once you've maintained optimal levels, more is not better. Like, you just need to get optimal levels and then sustain it. That's all it is. So like taking more for the sake of more, it's not better. So what I do is I take 5 grams of creatine daily, and that's it. Like, it's no no special rhyme or reason to it, but it's just as simple as that. And I find that that's very easy and manageable, but it certainly works. I mean, it'll help you with your strength. It'll help you with muscle. It's also helpful for mental and cognitive benefits as well. Like, creatine is just as much of a health supplement as it is an athletic performance supplement. So even elderly people should be using creatine to help them maintain muscle, help them maintain their strength, and help them maintain their cognitive and mental well-being as well. So it's an overall health supplement. And I personally recommend, you know, everybody should be supplementing with creatine as far as I'm concerned, unless, of course, you have some pre-existing health issues and you're, for whatever reason, shouldn't use it. But I mean, overall, most people would be better off with it. So yeah, good for you. Crispin says, "Hey Lee, glad you're getting better. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it." Rod says, I don't do much supplements, but I picked up a tub of Body Fortress Whey Isolate from Walmart, and it's solid for the price. I used to get a little more expensive ones, but this one is solid. I don't even consider whey protein a supplement personally. I mean, I know technically it is, and it's, you know, it's categorized under the supplements, but it's just another source of high protein food, right? Like, I could get protein from milk, or I could get protein from protein powder. It's just another source of protein. Like, it's not that one is better or worse or anything like that. It's just a convenient source of protein. Now, I do use protein powder, but it's, again, I don't visualize it as a supplement. It's just a convenient source of food. But as far as Body Fortress, I've never used that brand myself. Can't think that I have. Maybe I did back in the day, but not within recent years. Not in my short-term memory bank anyway. But I mean, for the most part, when it comes to protein powder, most of the main manufacturers, like, they get the same raw materials and they just package it up as their own. So very often, like, the protein that you get from brand A is probably going to be similar to the protein you get in brand B. It might have some different flavors and additives and whatever, but it might be the same raw ingredients. And you see this kind of, like, anybody who's involved with food manufacturing is probably very familiar with this. Like, I remember a friend of mine, he used to work at a bread factory, and he was telling us about how they'd package up the bread. Like, the machine is pumping out the bread, and all they would do is change the bags. So, okay, they got the Wonder Bread bag, and okay, it pumps out all bread goes into the Wonder Bread bags. They'd switch it out and put Ben's bread bags. Same bread going into it's just a different bag, right? And then they'd switch it out. And this is the store's no-name brand. Same bread going into the bag, and they just have all these different bags of bread, and they, of course, bring it to the supermarket. And the price could vary dramatically, but it's all the same freaking bread, right? The same applies with protein powder a lot of times, right? Very often you're getting similar protein powders from one brand to another, in terms of the raw materials, that is. Now, with that being said, you sometimes do get what you pay for, because sometimes some of the cheaper brands, they might have more whey concentrate, which contains more fat and lactose, where some of the higher end brands may contain more whey isolate, which has less fat and lactose. Basically, the isolate has the fat and lactose removed. So you got to factor that in there. But the actual protein itself is usually equally as good from one brand to the next. Like I've never seen anybody say, oh, like I've used supplement brand X and then I switched to supplement brand Y, for protein powder, and now my gains are like night and day difference. Like as long as you're getting adequate protein from food and supplements, and you're meeting your daily protein intake needs, like a gram of protein per pound of body weight per day, or per pound of ideal body weight, if you want to get more specific, you'll reap the gains regardless. Like, you could argue back and forth which brand is better, but I think it's the total quantity and the consistency that's going to make the biggest difference. But yeah, thanks for sharing, Rod. What else we got there? Stefan says, hi, Lee. What was your experience with Mike Mencers Heavy Duty program? Is it effective for naturals to gain muscles? Greetings from Germany. I never really personally followed Mike Mencers Heavy Duty program to any great extent. I mean, it was popular back in the day when I started training and started competing. My experience with it, if you will, was kind of like the best was modeling Dorian Yates's style of training, which was modeled off heavy duty, but it wasn't heavy duty, right? Like I know a lot of people kind of correlate, like back in the day, used to say, oh, Dorian Yates studied under Mike Mencer and he used heavy duty, and the magazines kind of promoted that. And there are some similarities, but Dorian's program wasn't the true heavy duty program. I mean, he had kind of made it his own and had his own modifications to it. And I kind of more followed some of the guidelines that Dorian Yates followed. But again, I made that my own as well. So I never truly followed heavy duty as Mike Mencer outlined strictly. And I mean, I respect Mike for what he did. I mean, all the influence he had in the fitness world stuff, but he was very, how do I put it, dogmatic in his approach. Like he had it set up like, oh, this is the only way to build muscle, right? You have to do this, and you have to do one set to failure. And if you do two sets to failure, you're wasting your time and it's not going to work, and blah. Like you got to look at the bigger picture, right? And like take everything with a grain of salt, because there's been, you look at all the bodybuilders out there who've made impressive gains, like even back in the pumping iron days, when Mike was competing, stuff like back in the 70s and 80s and stuff like that. I mean, guys were doing high volume, guys were doing high intensity, guys were doing everything, and people were making results with all of it. So to try and say that his system was the best, I mean, obviously it worked for some people and some people enjoy it. And hey, if you enjoy it and it works for you, more power to you, do it. But to try and say that other programs, which obviously work for other people, don't work because it doesn't fit your philosophy or whatever, like that's a crock of shit. It's almost like if we're looking at business, like maybe someone is really into real estate investing, right? And they're good at it, and they know that business niche, and they're really good at real estate investing. And then someone else is really good at stock market investing. Doesn't mean that one is right or wrong. Doesn't mean like, hey, just because I'm good at real estate, this is the only way that you can make money in the world. All the other methods of making money don't work because I'm good at real estate and this is what I know. Of course not, right? There's guys making a fortune in the stock market. There's guys, running their own business. There's guys doing whatever, like there's other ways of going about it. The same like just like there's multiple ways of going about accumulating wealth, there's multiple ways of going about accumulating muscle. It's not just one program is the be all end all. So, take it for what it is. I like Bruce Lee's philosophy on this one, where, take what's useful, discard what's useless, and then add what's uniquely yours. Right? That's pretty much my advice when it comes to this. All right, what else we got there? Thanks. I'm still going to lift, but I don't want to have time to or even energy to go balls out. So I plan on deloading the weight a bit. All right, that's a follow-up to his question earlier about had a good productive week, but now he's going to basically do a deload phase. As long as you're consistent, like, you can still make gains in a deload phase, right? So it's kind of like active recovery, but in that form of active recovery, you can still, prepare your body for the next growth phase. So yeah, I mean, that's the way your training progress is going to go anyway. It's not a linear shot. Like, it's not like week after week after week, we're just going up and up and up nonstop. It's like you'll have a spurt, and then you probably have a little, like, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and then another 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and then maybe 1 step forward and 2 steps back, and then up and down, up and down. Like, it's just not a linear shot. Your progress is going to be up and down for numerous factors, right? Whether that's planned because you're training your cycle around, your whatever your schedule, what it is you're training for, or it could be from other reasons, because you're busy with work, because you got sick, because you got other responsibilities, you're traveling, who knows, right? But as long as you are consistent over the long term and you refuse to quit, you're still going to make progress. The only thing that's going to slow your progress or stop your progress, besides getting injured, all right, I mentioned that one earlier, but the only other thing that's going to hinder your progress is if you quit. And this is a big one. Like, so many people, right? If I can't do it perfectly, then screw it. I'm not going to do anything at all. And they fall into the all or nothing trap, right? Well, if I can't go to the gym 6 days a week, 2 hours a day, and be super strict with my calories and my macros and have the perfect plan and the perfect this and the perfect that and blah, 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 then screw it. I'm not going to do anything. Something's better than nothing, right? Actually had someone I was chatting with somebody over on the Dad Bod Transformation group over on Facebook, and they were asking about, I can only work out for 30 minutes a day. Is it even worth it? And they were debating, should I just quit because I can only work out 30 minutes a day? Like, imagine if you worked out 30 minutes a day, 3 days a week for the next year, versus if you worked out nothing, like 0 days a week for 0 minutes for the next year. Like, 30 minutes, 3 days a week will compound over the next year, versus if you do jack shit and you get no results over the next year. Like, think of the difference when you extrapolate it over the long term, right? So many people have this all or nothing mindset. Well, if it can't be perfect, then I'm not going to do anything at all. And they literally quit on themselves. Something is better than nothing. Right? So anyway, moving on. Let's see what else we got there. Rob, saying, thanks for what you do. You're welcome. Question is, starting in May, I'm doing my first cut. I'm 52 years old and have gained 15 pounds of muscle since January. Do I need to change my workout, push-pull legs, to something different? That's a great question, and I'm actually glad you asked that, because no, you do not need to change your workout because you're trying to lose body fat. And let's just break this down. All a cut means is you're going to be in a slight calorie deficit with the main emphasis on losing body fat. That's it. So obviously you were in a calorie surplus because you mentioned that you gained 15 pounds since January. So obviously you were in a surplus in order to gain that. Now you're going to create a deficit. And where you're going to create that deficit from is you want to keep your protein intake high, because protein is the raw material that your body needs for building and maintaining muscle tissue. You're going to make some cuts in your carbohydrate intake and excess fat intake, especially if it's empty calories, like the foods that are not nourishing and not high volume, high nutrient dense foods, right? Like if it's especially processed foods or junk foods or just crap or soda or alcohol or anything that's just not serving your health and fitness goals, like cut that crap out. That's the low hanging fruit. Like this is a little side note here. It bugs the crap out of me when I talk to people who are like trying to maximize and optimize their, what's the best calories and what's the best macro split and what's the best workout program and what's the how much cardio should I do and what intensity should I do, what should my heart rate be and everything else. And then on the weekend they're still going out and drinking alcohol and binge eating and having cheat meals and stuff like that. Like grab the low hanging fruit first before you start worrying about nitpicking over details. Like you could have the perfect macro split, the perfect workout split, the perfect whatever, if it's, let's say you're doing that Monday to Friday. And then if you go out drinking and cheating on your diet on the weekends, you're going to like cancel out whatever progress you made during the week. So like look for the low hanging fruit, right? Like, and in Rob's case, I mean, okay, you're doing a cut. If you're still drinking alcohol, that's the first thing to cut. Boom. That's low hanging fruit right there. Like alcohol is serving no benefit to your fitness and fat loss goals. Cut that shit out. If you're drinking soda or just, empty calories, cut that out. Like, don't be worried about, well, what's the best workout split? What's the best macro split? What's the best blah, 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 blah. Cut the low hanging fruit out first. Junk food. Like if you're still eating potato chips, cut that out. Right? Like cut out all the obvious stuff first. And it blows my mind sometimes. I'm talking to people who like they know better. Like I know I shouldn't be drinking booze. I know I shouldn't drink beer. I know I shouldn't be eating junk food. I know I shouldn't be having cheat meals, but I do it anyway. Or they justify it because, well, I was dieting all week long. I deserve to have a cheat on the weekend, right? I mean, if you got a gut hanging over your belt, you don't deserve a cheat. Right? You got rolls of cheat meals hanging off that belly right now. Like until you're see some visible abdominal definition, you don't deserve cheat meals. Especially if you're serious into a fat loss phase. So that's the first stuff to go, right? That's the first thing. As far as your workout program, you don't need to change it. Like it's not like, okay, this is the muscle building workout and now this is the fat burning workout. The only major variable is calorie intake. That's it. Calorie intake, right? And of course you can then manipulate macronutrient intake and stuff like that. But if you're in a calorie deficit, you're going to start tapping into stored body fat for fuel and you will quote unquote cut. If you're in a surplus, you're going to be in a form of gaining. Now, if you're training properly in a progressive overload fashion, and those are high nutrient dense foods, good emphasis of protein, hopefully the majority of that surplus of calories will go towards lean muscle, get mass, or at least a good portion of it. But that's the biggest variable. It's not the workouts. It's just the calories. That's the simple answer right there. That's what you need to change. If you're making gains with push-pull legs and you're enjoying it, keep doing it, right? Don't change it. The only thing I would probably change if you want to create a bigger calorie deficit is start to incorporate more cardio. And ideally more low intensity cardio. Walking is such an underrated form of exercise for fat burning. A lot of people discredit walking because they think, oh, it's so simple, it's so easy. Like I got to do HIIT, I got to do something high intensity. Like I got to suffer, right? Like, and they don't think walking is suffering enough. So if I'm not suffering, if it doesn't hurt, then it obviously doesn't work. But that's the beauty of walking, is that you can do it without suffering, without beating yourself up, and without breaking down your body. So you can still do your push-pull legs program in the gym and then add a daily walk onto that. And then you're just burned an extra few hundred calories or however many you burn during your walk without destroying your body in the process. And that's where you get the fat burning benefits of adding in the low intensity cardio, because it's a simple add-on. And it doesn't take away from your recovery, and it doesn't beat your body up. It doesn't leave you painfully sore or exhausted or anything like that. It's easy exercise that you can add on and still keep going with your regular routine. So if you want to maximize fat loss, right, first start off by cutting out the low hanging fruit, like all the obvious crap that shouldn't be in your diet. Get that out of there ASAP. And then once that's done, then focus on like optimizing your nutrition intake in terms of like cutting back on the carbohydrates, cutting back on the excess fats. I'm not saying like go 0 carbs and 0 fat or anything like that, but a good ratio to shoot for is probably like a 30 your calories from protein, 30 your calories from carbs, 30 your calories from fat. Like that's a good ballpark to start with. See how your body responds, and then of course we can manipulate it from there. But adding in the walking along with that will put you on the right path to trimming off that body fat without losing lean muscle in the process. And again, if you want some help with this, like, to break down the details and whatever, reach out to me. Like, this is what I do. Like, this is what I'm throughout the week. Like this is what I specialize in, helping guys to optimize their training, their nutrition, and their supplementation and all this for maximizing lean muscle gains, maximizing fat loss, and feeling good and enjoying the process so they can stick it out as a lifestyle and not just suffering it out and hating the process, right? I mean, like any, monkey can starve themselves and suffer in the short term, but like, how do you do it and actually enjoy the process so you can stick to it over the long term and actually be lean for life and not just suffer it out, get lean for the summer, and then rebound and gain it all back again in the winter, right? But again, if you want some help with that, Rob, feel free to reach out to me. Again, my contact information is down below. I mean, we can certainly have a chat and see where we can optimize your training and nutrition there to maximize the fat loss and to make the most of this cut. Excuse me. David Jones. Howdy, sir. Great upload. Great live as always. Appreciate it, my friend. Thank you. Nitro. Bless up, Lee. What are your thoughts on I can't even say it. Mario de Pasquale, is it? I think it is. Anabolic diet. That's just another variation of a ketogenic diet, for lack of a better word. It's low carb, high fat, moderate protein diet. I mean, there's been numerous variations of it over the years. Different guys have came up with different spins on it, and then they do a carb load over the weekend. I personally don't like it. I've tried it, and I mean, it can work as long as you're consistent with it and you're creating a calorie deficit. Because, like, first off, let's just break down fat loss in a pyramid. Like, the most important thing, hands down, the most important thing is your calorie intake. That's it. Regardless if you're on a well-balanced diet, if you're on a low-carb diet, if you're on a low-fat diet, if you're on a vegan diet, if you're on a paleo diet, a Mediterranean diet, a Jenny Craig Weight Watchers diet, calories, like calories in versus calories out. You cannot escape that, right? Some way, some shape, some form, you have to create a calorie deficit if you want to lose body fat. Like, even back in the day when Mark Hobb did the Twinkie diet experiment, like, he lost body fat eating nothing but Twinkies and junk food because he was in a calorie deficit. So even if you're eating pure crap, as long as you're in a deficit, you can still lose body fat. Like, if you could eat nothing but pizza and technically lose fat, like if you eat one slice of pizza a day, and that's the only thing you consume, you will lose body fat. Now, you will feel miserable because one slice of pizza is not even going to be enough to satisfy you. And that slice of pizza is just going to spike your appetite and your cravings. And then you'll have to just rely on grit and willpower to create that calorie deficit. But you could technically eat a pizza every day and still lose fat as long as you're in a calorie deficit. So the number one thing, calories. And this also applies in the opposite, meaning you could eat a ketogenic diet, or you could eat a low-fat diet, or a carnivore diet, or a vegan diet, or a paleo diet, or a Mediterranean diet, or whatever diet. If you're in a calorie surplus or calorie maintenance, you're not going to lose fat regardless of how clean or how natural or how unprocessed or how organic or how whatever. It's calories. Number one thing, it's calories in versus calories out. At the end of the day, that's the most important thing when it comes to fat loss, right? If you're not in a calorie deficit, then screw it. I mean, it's no diet is going to work. So get that in check first. Once you have that in check, then you can start manipulating the macro variables. And a lot of it is personal preference. Like, there are some guys out there who actually do enjoy lower carb, higher fat diets and find that it works for them. I'm not one of them. Part of the reason is because it's so low in volume. Because if you're eating fat, fat is very calorie dense. You cannot eat a lot of fat without adding up a lot of calories. So if you're following a anabolic diet, which is just another version of a high fat diet, your food volume has to be very low in order to keep the calories in check. Versus if you're eating a well-balanced diet of like protein and veggies and high volume carbohydrates and keeping the fats, relatively low, you can eat a lot more volume. Like you can stuff yourself with an abundance of vegetables and fruit and lean protein and like have big, massive, satisfying meals where you eat until you're comfortably full and still be in a calorie deficit. Like it's very hard to overeat like fruits and vegetables and get fat because they're so low in calories and they're so high in volume. So if you're eating protein and fruits and veggies and natural unprocessed foods, like you can eat a lot of them and still be in a calorie deficit, right? So that's why I'm not a fan of the high fat diets, is because you have to be in you have to literally be limiting your food intake. And that's not what I like to do. I love to eat. I love to eat and eat high volume food. So that's one reason I'm not a big fan of it. Another thing that I personally found was a problem is when you're eating these high fat diets and you're limiting your carbohydrate intake, you're also limiting, fiber. And I mean the natural fiber, like fiber supplements, like Metamucil and all that kind of stuff and psyllium husk and whatever. I mean, that can help, but it's not the same as fiber from real fruits and vegetables and just natural unprocessed carbohydrates like your oatmeals and your potatoes and your rice and things like that. It's not the same, because I found that whenever I'd go on a low carb, high fat diet, I'd always get constipated. And I'd try and make up for it by supplementing with Metamucil and stuff like that, but it still wasn't the same. And sometimes when you're consuming those fiber supplements, it actually binds you up even more. And then like it just feels like you got a rock in your bowels or something. Like nothing's moving down there. It just binds up. And I found that when I would go on this, I would go from having like 1 to 2 bowel movements a day, which is what I normally do, to probably have 1 or 2 bowel movements a week on the low carb diet. And that didn't feel good. And obviously it's not healthy, right? I mean, you don't want constipation and all that shit literally backing up in your system is not good, right? All the toxins and the buildup. So that's another reason why I'm not a huge fan of low carb diets. I'd much rather have the higher volume and the abundance of fruits and vegetables and things like that. So I'm getting that natural fiber and that just helps to keep your body regular and detoxify and nourish you on the cellular level. Plus all that, the roughage that you get from fruits and vegetables, that's also nourishing your gut bacteria. All right. So if you want healthy gut, right, that's critical. And a lot of times when you're on these like keto, low carb, carnivore, and you're not getting that natural fiber from fruits and vegetables, it can sometimes cause a lot of gut issues long term. So that's another reason why I'm not a fan of it personally. So you asked my thoughts on the anabolic diet. Those are my thoughts. I mean, I have tried it. It did work. I mean, I did lose weight simply because I created a calorie deficit, but I didn't feel good. Right. So I feel better when I eat a more well-balanced diet. And that's what I choose to do. And that's what I recommend for my coaching students that I'm helping as well. But with that being said, some people probably follow it and enjoy it. I mean, and if that's the case, more power to you. Like, I mean, hey, if it's working for you, you enjoy it. I'm not gonna try and dispute it, but I think there's better ways. Right. I certainly do. All right. What else we got there? This is Lee following up with his talking about the grip strength competition that he's going to be doing. Says the events in the grip comp are vertical bar hold, a rolling thunder, vertical bar hold. I kind of visualize what it is. I'm just not familiar with the tool that you're going to be using or the specific exercise itself. But I am familiar with the Rolling Thunder. That is very freaking hard. Pinch block, that's another hard. Hub hold, that's hard. Which good stuff. And all the instruments have chain with plates attached to them. Cool. Vertical bar, yeah, okay. I know what you're talking about there. So it's basically a vertical bar with a chain attached to it. So again, these are all different variations of static grip strength that you're going to be utilizing here. Good stuff. I mean, all those exercises, like if you just did that as a workout in and of itself, whether you did it like once a week or added them in as finishers to your regular workouts, like that will go a long way to maximizing your overall grip strength and forearm development, which then in turn is just going to enhance your workouts in general. Because the stronger your grip, the more connected you are when you're grabbing the barbells and dumbbells and machine handles. It's just going to make you feel that much more stronger, and it's not going to be the weak link. Because anybody who's neglected their grip, it's probably the weak link in the chain. And then sometimes you see guys having to use lifting straps and stuff like that in order to accommodate their weak grip. Right? That was me. That's what the reason why I got involved with grip training back in the day was because I over relied on lifting straps, and in doing so, my grip went to shit. I mean, I never had any grip strength, so I had to prioritize it, and did so using heavy grippers and all the different other grip exercises. Awesome. Anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing how you do with that, Lee. Please keep me posted. David saying, great live so far. Well, as always, Thanks, sir. Thank you, David. Appreciate it. And Rod saying, just make sure with creatine your water intake is up. I would say that should apply regardless. Like we should prioritize drinking adequate water regardless if you're supplementing with creatine or not. But obviously, if you are using creatine, that does pull water and nutrients into the muscle cells. So if you want to maximize the benefits of creatine, you do need to make sure that you're well hydrated. So that's another one of the health benefits of creatine is it volumizes the cell. It hydrates the cell. And a hydrated cell is much healthier than a dehydrated cell. So that's one of the health benefits of creatine is it helps to create that cell volumization, pulling water and nutrients into the muscle cells. We have Marwin joining in. Are there any benefits of doing more than 3 times a week of full body training a week for an intermediate lifter? That really depends on your work capacity and your fitness level and your recovery ability. A lot of times people will do the full body workout 3 times a week. And the reason for that is so you have a day of rest in between each workout. That's the general rule of thumb. It's not that there's anything magical about 3 days a week. It's just it allows you to train, rest, recover, and grow. Train, rest, recover, and grow. And if you're doing more than that, you can sometimes start to dip into the overtraining syndrome where you're breaking your body down faster than it can recover. But this is going to vary depending on your individual work capacity, how hard you're pushing yourself, the volume and the intensity. Like there's so many variables. Like you could literally do more than this. Like you could do 4 full body workouts. You could do 5 full body workouts, but you have to adjust the volume and the intensity accordingly. Right. So it's, you got to play with those variables. And of course, it's going to depend on your individual work capacity. So, all right. As far as are there benefits, if you're looking from a calorie burning benefit for maximizing fat loss, then we could say, yeah, if you do more workouts, more training, more activity, you're going to burn more calories. So it'll be easier to create a bigger calorie deficit. So, I mean, that could certainly be one benefit. From a muscle building point of view, is there really much benefit? Probably not. I mean, when I look back over my own training history, I've always made my best size and strength gains training 3 days a week or every other day. Like having that day of rest in between each workout makes a huge difference because you approach each workout feeling recovered and strong and energized versus feeling like you're half depleted all the time. And for people who are training day after day after day, like 5 and 6 days a week, or some people who try to train every single day, you're never fully rested. You're always running like on half empty, you're half full, however you want to look at it. You never feel fully rested and recovered. And I find by having those rest days factored in there, when I did incorporate them, I made better gains. Because when I was younger, full of piss and vinegar, and teenager with no schedule, or no responsibilities on my schedule, and just, hey, all I had to do was go to school and come home and work out. Big deal, right? Life was so simple back then. I was working out every day, sometimes 2-3 hours a day, because I had the time to do it and I loved it, and I just got caught up in that whole, thought more was better. But I quickly hit a plateau with my workouts. Even though I was pushing myself in the gym, 6-7 days a week, I quickly got to the point of a plateau, and I was like, man, I'm just not making any gains. And this was around the time that I started reading some of the articles and information that Dorian Yates was posting out there. And he's saying, like, hey, I work out every other day. And he's talking about all the gains he's made. And I said, well, if it works for him, I wonder if it'll work for me. So lo and behold, I started cutting back my workouts to every other day. As soon as I did it, strength went up, muscle went up. I mean, I started making gains in the gym again, because now I was able to rest, recover, and grow between the workouts versus just constantly breaking the body down and overtraining. So, you got to really look at what it is you're training for. As far as benefits, we could argue that there's benefits to more calorie burning if you train more frequently, but from a benefit of more muscle mass, I would argue no. I would say you're better off keeping the workout volume low and making sure you're getting adequate rest and recovery to maximize your gains. Zeus is saying, what's the difference between hydrochloride, creatine, and monohydrate? I heard it makes people strong, but too much can cause hair loss. The different forms of creatine, really, it doesn't make that much a difference in the greater scheme of things. Virtually all the studies that have been done on creatine are done on monohydrate. Now, some of the supplement companies will come out with the different forms, trying to say that, okay, this causes less water retention, or it has better absorption, or less stomach distress, or whatever. But personally, I use plain old creatine monohydrate because it's the best bang for your buck. It works. It's simple. I mean, I have tried some of the other forms, and I can't say that I've noticed any benefit from using a different form of creatine. So if you're looking for the best value for your money, just plain old creatine monohydrate. And as far as the hair loss thing, that's really a crock of BS too, because hair loss is mostly a genetic thing. I mean, some guys are going to lose their hair, some don't. I mean, I know Zeus personally, and he's got a wonderful long head of hair on him. You can see it in his avatar there. So I don't think hair loss is going to be a big issue. I mean, hey, I'm 45 and I still got, a decent head of hair. It's kind of probably a little thinner and grayer than it used to be, 20 years ago, but I still got hair in my head. So I think it's mostly genetic. And when you look at people that personally, like, think of everybody that in terms of friends, family, neighbors who have went bald. How many of them have taken creatine? Probably none, because they probably don't even work out, and they're probably not using creatine or any supplements or any PEDs or any of that stuff. They just went bald because it was in their genetic deck of cards, right? They just, for whatever reason, they've got the genetics to go bald, and they go bald, right? That is the biggest issue. And I don't really think lifestyle habits have that big of an impact on hair loss. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't have any impact. I mean, of course it may, depending on what habits you partake in. But overall, if someone is genetically predispositioned to go bald, then you're probably going to go bald. If you're not, then you're probably not, right? And we see this even in the bodybuilding world. Like, you see some bodybuilders, like a lot of them are going around shaved heads, bald heads. And then there's some guys full heads of hair, in their 40s, 50s, 60s and beyond. So and you can't say, it's because so-and-so went bald because he used PEDs, because virtually everybody who's on the professional bodybuilding stage is taking some form of performance enhancements. Why do some have full heads of hair and some don't? Right? I think it's genetics. So the same applies with creatine. I know you're asking about creatine, not PEDs, but I'm pairing it together because I know a lot of people here, they kind of relate to them together. But I honestly, I wouldn't worry about it. And when you start looking into the research and the studies on it, it's very weak. It's very weak. You know, any correlation between creatine and hair loss, it's, the health benefits of creatine far outweigh any potential downsides. And again, I've looked into it because I have a lot of people asking me about this, and when you try and look through the studies, it's such a weak correlation, right? Anyway, moving on. This is a good question here. This is from Craig. What are some good strategies to shift mindset, shifting from all or nothing, from losing weight to progress, not perfection, is hard? Any suggestions? I think I'm picking up what you're laying down, like the all or nothing mindset. And how do you get out of that? It's really looking at the bigger picture and giving yourself permission to start small. Like a lot of times people, when they have that all or nothing, they're making whatever it is they're struggling with too big in their mind. They're making it too big of a deal. So give me an example. Like when it comes to fitness, a lot of people think it has to be harder and more complicated than it really is. And they're putting it up there on this pedestal, thinking, well, I got to have the perfect program and the perfect workout, and I got to make sure my schedule is perfect, and I got to have time every day, and they start stacking up all the things that they need to have, and it makes it so big and so complicated and so overwhelming. Whereas you just need to stop overthinking it and get off your ass and do something. And I'll use an analogy a lot of people, an excuse, I should say, a lot of people have. Like they say, I don't have time to exercise, right? Raise your hand if you know someone who's used that excuse. Maybe you've used that excuse, or you've heard someone use that excuse, right? Like that's hands down the biggest excuse out there is people say, I don't have time. But yet, for some reason, those same people who don't have time to exercise somehow find time to sit and watch Netflix. They somehow have time to scroll through social media on their phone. They somehow have time to go out and drink and hang out with their buddies or whatever. Like they find time for what's important. So when someone says, I don't have time for that, or whatever, it's really saying that's not important to me. That's what they're saying. So you need to kind of shift your priorities and realize that it's not that big a deal. It's like, do you overthink watching Netflix or whatever streaming service? I'm saying Netflix, but there's a gazillion streaming services now. Amazon Prime or Tubi or Apple TV or even the old-fashioned cable TV, whatever it is you watch, right? Like, do you overthink it, or do you just plop your ass on the couch and grab the clicker and done? And now you're in automatic zombie mode, right? You don't even overthink it. You just do it. You need to kind of take that approach to exercise. Like, stop overthinking it and just do it. And that's the way I approach exercise. Like, I don't make a big deal of it. I just do it. Same with eating. Like, a lot of people like, oh, I got to have the perfect planned meal, and I got to have the perfect planned macros, and I got to have this and that and the other thing. Like, do they overthink when they throw a frozen pizza in the oven and heat it up? Or when they order a pizza, or they go through the drive-thru and they get their takeaway food? Do they overthink that? Do they give a shit what the calories and macros are in that? No. But then when it comes time to make a healthy meal, it's like, oh, it's got to be perfect. It's got to fit my macros, and it's got to have this calories and this ratio of this and that and the other thing. Like, just give yourself permission to start making small choices now. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, better than you were before. That's the key to all this. Better than you were before. So I'll give you an example. If you're currently doing 0 exercise right now, then hey, let's start with going for a walk. Let's start with going for a 10-minute walk. Put on your sneakers, walk down the road for 5 minutes, turn around and walk back. That's a 10-minute walk. That's better than nothing. If that's more than you've done before, then start with that. and just give yourself permission and feel good about that little victory. Like do the simple thing and give yourself permission to say, you know what? I just did something productive. I got off my ass and I went for a 10-minute walk. I haven't walked in months. Woohoo! Pat on the back. Good job. You know, and give yourself permission to feel good about it. And then guess what? You're going to want to do it again. And then you know, go for your little walk, give yourself a pat on the back, celebrate, tell yourself good job. And the more you reinforce that positive feel good, the more you're going to want to do it. And just let that build. But give yourself permission to start small. Like so many people, they overthink it and think, well, if I can't be perfect, then I'm not going to do anything at all. And just give yourself permission to start small. That's the best advice I can offer for this. You know, another thing that will help more than anything is getting someone to help hold you accountable, an accountability partner, getting around other like-minded people who are doing the habits that you want to do and letting their positive energy pull you up to a higher level. Because if you're trying to rely on self-motivation and you're not very motivated, like look at your track record over the past year or 5 years or 10 years or whatever it is. If you have a track record of doing jack shit, do you automatically think that somehow you're just going to magically pull motivation out of your ass and start exercising and eating healthy all by yourself? Probably not. You're probably going to have to change your environment. Get around some people who are doing the habits that you want to do and let their positive energy rub off on you and pull you up to a higher level. It works both directions too. Because I mean, hey, you start hanging around fat, overweight people who like to go drinking and binge eating and whatever, you're going to start taking on those habits as well. So choosing your environment is very powerful with this, right? Like Jim Rohn had a saying back in the day that we're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. Who are the 5 people you're spending time with, right? Are they people that you admire and people that you actually want to be like? Or are they people who are kind of like, you know, they're pulling me down, right? Like, look at the physique of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Like, do you admire their physique? Is that what you would like to look like? Or are they like overweight, out of shape, riddled with health issues, and like, why am I spending time with these people? Maybe it's because they're your family or something like that, right? You know, but you have to make some effort to get around people who are doing the things you want to do, who can help pull you up to a higher level. And that's one of the best benefits we have within the Muscle After 40 Blueprint program is it's a virtual community of like-minded guys who are there to pull each other up. And, you know, we have regular group Zoom calls. We have regular group meetups, you know, like virtual meetups online and stuff, and sharing through our private community. And we're there sharing our wins, sharing our struggles, and sharing our challenges, and helping to support and encourage one another. So in addition to having the training and the nutrition and the supplementation and the tactics, you'll also have the support and the accountability and people who are there to pull you up to a higher level, even virtually. Like, don't discount that. I mean, it's nice to spend real world time with people, but even like what we're doing right now, virtual time, this is powerful because my beliefs and mindsets and information that I'm spewing through this computer and into yours, that's having an impact on you. You wouldn't be still watching this if it wasn't. So that's indirectly having an impact. And if you can get around other like-minded people who can pull you up to a higher level, that's going to have a big impact in shifting that mindset and getting you towards the progress and out of that stuck in a rut plateau. All right. I'm going to get ready to clue this up because we've went way over an hour, which I normally do. I always promise an hour and I over deliver, right? Once I get going, it's hard to turn it off, but I'm going to turn it off right now. And I know there's still other questions coming through here, but hopefully you got some benefit from this. And anyway, guys, if I didn't address your question, because I know I'm looking through the comments there now, there's a lot of questions coming through. If you would like to reach out to me personally, feel free to do so. What you can do is open up the video description and send me a message or an email. And if you want me to reach out to you, we can certainly do that. Or if you would like some help, you know, if you would like some personalized help with your own customized training and nutrition program, you'd like some accountability to help reach your fitness and fat loss goals or whatever it is you're training for, you can book in for a strategy session call with me as well. And again, the details for that is down in the description below this video. right? You can book in for a one-on-one Zoom call strategy session where we'll sit down, hop on Zoom, and do a deep dive, like look under the hood as far as what you're doing with your fitness and nutrition goals, and see where we can optimize it and help you get on the right track to maximize your progress. So if that's something you're interested in, open up the description, reach out to me, and we'll be in touch. And in the meantime, have yourself a fantastic weekend, and look forward to talking to you in our next video chat. Take care. Over and out.